Good evening, everyone. Great. So, welcome to the third session of our Be Unstoppable webinar series. Let's give everyone a few more minutes to log in. I can see a lot of our friends are joining us from various parts of the country. There are some early birds like Avinash, Yoginder Kumar from Jivika Banks. We've got Vishal G, Mr. K. Vittal Shetty, Ajay Sharma. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us today. We'd love to know more about you guys. Where are you joining us? If you can tell us from in the chat window, which part of the country are you joining us from? On what kind of a business are you, do you represent right now? We'd love to know more about it. Thank you for giving us your Friday evening and joining us on this third session of Be Unstoppable webinar series by HP. We'll give 30 seconds more and let's use this time to know you guys better. We've got G. Ashmitha, Hyderabad. Good evening. Okay. I think we've reached a critical mass. We've got now at this point of a time more than 300 people, and they are the counter is kind of increasing. So once again, big thank you for attending this session today. You're giving us your precious Friday evening, and we're going to make sure that it's worth your time. Today's topic, it's about how to cyber sanitize your business, and we know why it is important. While you read a lot of articles on cybersecurity, and there's always a lot of obvious things to do. Always, there's a list of things that you can do to secure your business. But I think today the time has changed. We are working from home. We are working from unsecured networks. Our devices are being used not only by us, by our families as well. We are on shared network. There are other responsibilities from an overall perspective that we are kind of right now feeling, either to take our business online or have more online transaction than we used to. And this is the time when we need to make sure that anything that we are doing right now for our business is good enough to make sure that we protect ourselves and our business against any cyber threats. So while you read a lot of things in the newspaper about do's and don'ts, I can tell you that today's speaker will going to go a step deeper and actually show you some real life examples. I have personally seen a hall full of CIOs listening to him with a pin drop silence, some occasional jaw drops as well. But it is basically a simple things where he showed how a dark web can actually have simple tools that can hack your chats or your SMSs or your emails, and what are the things that you can do to protect yourself. I still remember a famous line from his session which says, when it comes to your business, no security is enough security. And I'm 100% sure you're going to enjoy this session. But before I invite our speaker, I just want to take one quick minute on just letting you get on board on this platform called Be Unstoppable and why HP is doing this. Now, if you remember, HP has, our DNA is that we've started from a garage. We started like a small business. Our founders, Bill and Dave, started this company from a garage and they never looked back. But we still get this startup DNA in ourselves. We still love to be a part of this SMB community, and we try our best to get the best products, to get our best services, and make sure that we have the best information that we can share with this community. And that's what our endeavor is. That's what Be Unstoppable is. Be Unstoppable is a platform where we have done various sessions on various aspects of business. So we started with supply chain management and overall business management. We've done a session on sales and marketing. Today we are doing a session on cybersecurity. And in the times to come, we are focusing on finance and some other parts which can be useful for your business. So please join us. We're getting the experts on board to have these discussions and grow this community with the information that's required at this current point. Please join us on our Facebook India page to get more updates on these sessions. And you will be able to see the previous sessions also that we have done in the last 2 weeks. Now, without further ado, let me invite our cybersecurity expert and our speaker. He's widely recognized as a computer security expert. He's also an author, a tech junkie, a YouTuber, and an ex MTV host. He hosted a popular show on MTV called What the Hack. He has published more than 16 books and delivered more than 1,000 sessions in more than 25 countries. He received several awards for his work in the space of cybersecurity. So please join me to welcome Mr. Ankit Padia. Welcome, Ankit.
Thanks a lot, Rahul. Really appreciate you giving me an opportunity to interact with the participants.
Great.
Should I go and get started?
Yeah, absolutely. Please go ahead. I'm sure I have been a personal fan and I've seen your sessions over a period of time. So I'm sure our guest today will also enjoy. And what we're going to do is after you finish your session, we're going to take some Q&A from the people who've joined us live and we'll discuss that. So I'll come back once your session is over and we'll have a Q&A.
Excellent. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Over to you.
All right. So good afternoon, everybody. Thanks a lot for joining this session on cybersecurity. Now, cybersecurity is indeed an issue of global concern. It's an issue of concern for absolutely everybody who uses the internet. I'm very sure that most of you will agree with this statement that the internet has really changed our lives. It's probably one of the best tools or inventions known to mankind. But the biggest problem with the internet is that the moment you connect to the internet, till the time you disconnect, no matter what you do online, every single move of yours is being watched, is being recorded, or is being logged on some server or the other. So let me actually start today's session by asking all of you certain questions that will make you realize how dangerous the internet has made our lives. So how many of you who are attending today's webinar have email accounts with Gmail, Yahoo, India Times, and so on? Please reply in the chat window. Stop using them. Now, Gmail, Yahoo, India Times put together probably have a few billion users across the globe. But did you know that each and every email being sent or received by all those billions of users is actually being scanned for certain keywords? In other words, if you were to send an email with the keywords, kill Donald Trump, then immediately you're blacklisted, a background check is done on you, and if any links between you and any terrorist organization is found, then obviously you're caught. Otherwise, you're let go free. How many of you use google.com? Stop using it. So Google is actually a classic example of a website that is known to keep a track of each and every user's searching habits on the internet. In other words, each time you connect to google.com, whatever keywords you're typing into google.com, they're actually getting recorded in a permanent database and being stored along with your name, or at least along with the IP address of your computer. And this gets stored pretty much on a permanent basis unless you go into your account and manually delete all of that information. How many of you use Microsoft Windows? Stop using it. The biggest problem with Windows is that the moment an error takes place on Windows, there's got to be a small pop-up dialog box that will get displayed on the screen, which will ask you whether you wish to report that error message to Microsoft or not. Now, if you decide to not report that error message, then things are fine. But for some reason, if you choose to report that error message to Microsoft, then along with that error message, a lot of system-specific information about your software and hardware from your computer also gets transferred to Microsoft. How many of you use antivirus software? Stop using it. Now, in the underground hacking community, it's a widely accepted fact or a widely known fact that the antivirus companies are themselves creating viruses, releasing them on the internet, infecting all your systems, and then selling you a countermeasure. So by purchasing and using antivirus software, you're actually indirectly helping an illegal industry to prosper. One last question before I go ahead and start with today's session. How many of you use the internet? stop using it. Because this kind of brings me back to what I said earlier. No matter what you do online, every single move of yours is being watched, is being recorded, is being logged on some server or the other. Now, obviously, it is not possible for any of us attending today's webinar to stop using the internet, especially in the times of today's pandemic, which is why today's session is extremely important. So we are living in an age where we cannot do without the internet. And we are living in an age where, even though I said you got to stop using all of this, we actually cannot. We cannot imagine even a single day without using the internet, without our email, without our operating system, without our mobile phone, and so on. However, at the same time, cybersecurity threats are just increasing day by day. Which is why in today's session, what I'm going to try and do is, I'm going to try and take all of you into the minds of a criminal, and I'm going to show you how easy it is for cyber criminals to hack into your computers, your mobile phones, and pretty much any device that you're using today, and steal data from you, and sometimes even financial, actual money from you. Now, to be honest, cybersecurity has always been a problem. However, in this pandemic time, the risk of cybersecurity has only increased. Because in my opinion, there are three key things that have happened. So if we go back maybe a few months to around mid-March, when this pandemic became a global issue, to protect employees, to safeguard the health of employees, organizations like yourself had to rapidly shift from a normal work environment to a work from home environment, right? So, and this pretty much happened overnight. So unfortunately, most organizations were not prepared for it. So most organizations weren't prepared for a work from home environment. And more importantly, they weren't prepared to secure a work from home environment. So that's the first thing that happened. The second thing that has happened is employees were also not ready for this. Many of us don't actually have the luxury of getting a laptop from our office. So many of us are now living in a situation where we as a family, if for those of you who are married and have kids, you are actually having to share your laptop with your family members. So your kids may be accessing online lessons. You are probably doing your meetings on online video conference platforms, and so is your spouse. So we were not prepared for this at all. So now suddenly, the same device that is being used for personal things by your kids is also being used by you to carry out your day-to-day office work. And a third thing has also happened. And the third thing is something that has not changed, which is the fact that cyber criminals today are working from home, but in reality, cyber criminals have always been working from home. So cyber criminals have always been used to this remote work environment. And now they're actually taking advantage of this situation where organizations are not ready, employees are not ready, personal devices are being used for sensitive transactions and business transactions, and criminals are trying to take full kind of advantage of this situation, which is why today's session becomes extremely relevant and important. The format of today's session is I'm going to, of course, use PowerPoint slides to walk all of you through the top 5 cybersecurity threats that you face, not only in a regular environment, but more so in a pandemic environment. And then I will share with you simple solutions that all of you as SMEs, as entrepreneurs, as employees of your respective organizations can actually implement to protect yourself, to protect your work from home environment in this pandemic situation. And of course, at the end, we'll keep aside around 15 minutes or so for any questions that anybody might have from this audience. So let me go ahead and get started. Feel free to use the chat window to post any comments, your reactions, or of course, any questions that you might have throughout this entire presentation. But of course, I'll be answering your questions only at the end. So on that note, let's go ahead and get started. So what are the top 5 cybersecurity threats that we need to be aware about, that we need to actually protect ourselves against? Now, the first thing is, in this pandemic environment, video has become the preferred medium of interaction. I don't know about you guys, but ever since work from home started, I find myself spending around 10 to 12 hours a day just on Zoom, WebEx, and similar kind of platforms. Not only am I doing all my work meetings using video conferencing, but even catching up with family and friends is happening using the video platform. So video has become the preferred medium of interaction. However, is it really safe? I like to actually share with all of you a real life example of one of the most shocking cybercrime case studies or cybercrime incidents that I personally come across in my career. And this happened way before this corona environment started, right? This happened in Mumbai. There was a lady in Mumbai who lived in a typical Mumbai apartment, which is a one-room apartment. And this lady had this habit of chatting on the internet for several hours together every single evening. Now, one evening when the lady was chatting on the internet, the person with whom she was chatting managed to hack into the lady's computer and then managed to infect her computer with a spying software called a Trojan. And once her computer was infected with a Trojan, the criminal, probably sitting in some other part of the world, remotely, secretly managed to use that Trojan to switch the lady's web camera on. So from that moment, whatever happened in the lady's apartment, which I like to remind all of you, was a typical Mumbai apartment, which is a one-room apartment. So whatever was happening in that room was actually getting broadcasted live on the internet 24 hours a day. And the lady had absolutely no knowledge that something so terrible was happening to her. Life continued normally for a few weeks, after which the lady went for a job interview. And at that job interview, you won't believe it, but the person who was sitting across the desk from the lady, he looked at the lady and said, "Wait a minute, I think I've seen you somewhere." And as soon as the lady kind of continued the conversation and found out what had been happening, she immediately rushed back home, disconnected her computer from the internet, complained to the police, investigations were carried out, but unfortunately, the criminal was never caught. And in the meantime, the lady probably never wanted to use the internet again. I'm sure all of you have laptops that you're using, if not laptops, other devices with web cameras or built-in cameras that you're using for video conferencing. But how many of you are actually kind of shutting the camera off or using a physical device that many manufacturers like HP have that actually protects your video from being illegally transmitted without your knowledge? How many of you are comfortable with the fact that your kids may be using your laptop to chat with their friends, and maybe one of their friends' computer is infected and they send a file to your kids, they open that file on your computer, and then your computer gets infected with the Trojan, and now somebody else, some criminal in some other part of the world is taking advantage of that situation and switching on your web camera without your knowledge. So essentially, there is no privacy at all on the internet, which is why it's extremely important to use the simple solutions that we're going to discuss at the end of today's presentation to protect your privacy. Now, at this point of time, I like to actually share with you a live demonstration as well. And this live demonstration will kind of further emphasize the point that in today's internet world, there is no privacy at all. So let me actually stop sharing my PowerPoint slides. I will now share my screen with all of you. Now, whenever you actually are surfing the internet, your IP address, your identity, your privacy is just never there, right? Somebody is always recording who you are. So there is a website called whatismyipaddress.com. And if you look at this website, I've opened my browser and I've connected to this website, and immediately it has displayed on the screen my laptop's IP address and my current location as well. So currently I'm in Dubai in the UAE, and it has mentioned my ISP as well. So no matter which website that you go to, they are constantly recording your IP address. And once your IP address is known to a criminal, it's much easier for the criminal to then scan your computer, find any vulnerabilities on it, and start hacking into your computer remotely from some other part of the world. So it's important to try and hide your IP address, because it's almost like your Aadhaar card on the internet, or maybe your identity on the internet. So how can you actually do something as simple as hiding or protecting your IP address? I like to share with you a very simple solution that all of you can actually use. And the solution is something known as the Tor browser. Tor is available as a free download on the internet. I'm sure all of you can see the Tor browser on my computer now. It looks like just any other browser would look like, right? So it's just, there's a URL bar at the top, and it has all the kind of buttons and features that typical browsers have. But there's a big difference between a regular browser and a Tor browser. First of all, of course, both of them are free, but the big difference is Tor will hide your IP address, will kind of give you secure and private access to the internet, and it will also hide your location on the internet. And the way it does it is, Tor has thousands of servers in different parts of the world. So imagine that you're sitting in Mumbai, you connect to the internet using Tor, then Tor will randomly assign you 3 different servers in 3 different parts of the world. So sitting in Mumbai, you bounce off a Tor server in, say, Sweden, then connect to another Tor server in Russia, a third server in maybe Germany, and then you're connected to the internet. So almost there are 3 layers of security between you and the internet, protecting your IP address, identity, and privacy. And now if I use Tor to connect to the same website that I connected to earlier, which is whatismyipaddress.com, if you notice, my IP address is completely different. I'm using the same laptop, same internet connection. I'm still in the same physical location as well, but my IP address, my identity has completely changed now. So Tor is fabulous. It's free. It's very easy to use, and it allows you to hide your IP address and identity on the internet. I'm sure that many of you find Tor to be very familiar. You may have also heard Tor in kind of relation to something known as the dark web. The dark web is a part of the internet which contains a lot of kind of typically illegal stuff. And the dark web is a part of the internet that you cannot access using your regular browsers. To access the dark web, you need the Tor browser. So if all of you now look at the screen, I have now used Tor to connect to the homepage, so-called homepage of the dark web. And it's called the Hidden Wiki, right? And if you look at all the links that you see on the screen, these are all links to illegal websites in the dark web. So you have websites where you can get fake credit cards. You have websites where you can actually order guns. So if you notice guns, dark market. There are websites where you can order fake gold and diamond. You have websites where you can also get free passport IDs from any country of your choice. And of course, you can order drugs and all kinds of other illegal things. The only payment that is accepted in the dark web is, of course, Bitcoins. And once you place an order, there is no guarantee that you'll ever get anything delivered to you, because, of course, this is all the illegal part of the internet. And it's not as if you can go to the police and complain that, hey, you got duped and you did not receive the goods and services that you had ordered from the dark web. So it's a part of the internet that typically is illegal. The reason why I bring it up is that nowadays it's very easy for somebody to go to the dark web to hire a hacker, and the job given to that hacker would be, hey, this company is my competitor. I want to spy on them. Please hack them. Or, hey, my neighbor or this friend of mine, I don't like them. I'm very jealous of them. Can you please hack them? So there are hackers that are available for hire on the dark web. which is a nice transition into the second kind of risk that I wanted to talk about today. So in this pandemic environment, not only are we using video conferencing much more than we have ever used before, but we are also now accessing confidential work documents from personal devices. So some of us are lucky where, we have been given laptops from our offices, and we are using now the office laptop in the home environment. But there are lots, thousands or lakhs or crores of people in India where they don't have the luxury. So now companies are facing a very interesting problem where you obviously want your employees to remain productive, but the challenge is, are you comfortable with your employees accessing their confidential documents, contracts, emails, everything else that's sensitive to the day-to-day operations of your company, but from an unsecured laptop or an unsecured mobile phone, which is in the home environment of your employee, right? So that becomes a big kind of question mark. So is your home laptop really safe? And is it possible for criminals to hack into your home laptop and remotely control everything on it? So let me now again give all of you a demonstration of one of the oldest examples of a Trojan, right? I'm going to show you 3 examples. I'll start with the oldest because it's the simplest. It's called NetBus. NetBus is available as a free download on the internet. And along with NetBus, you have more advanced Trojans called like Lost Door, and even more advanced kind of Trojans called Metasploit. Now, Metasploit is not a Trojan, but it allows you to establish a remote shell connection to the victim's computer, right? So there is a full range of software available. All of them are pretty much free that allow a criminal to remotely connect to your computer and start controlling all software and all hardware on your computer. So let me quickly give a demonstration of this to all of you, right? So for the purpose of today's demonstration, what I've done is I've infected my own laptop with the NetBus Trojan. So I'm going to simulate this whole attack on my own kind of machine. So let me quickly open up the NetBus Trojan. So if all of you look at the screen, this is what the NetBus Trojan looks like, right? And the way it works is, once you've infected the victim's computer with the Trojan, you need to find out their IP address. And in this space provided, you need to enter their IP address, which is why when I was earlier talking about IP addresses, I was emphasizing that protecting your IP address is very important. So let me just type in my own IP address, click on connect. And if you notice at the status bar at the bottom, it says connected to the victim's computer. So now that you've connected to the victim's computer, you can start using all these different buttons or options to remotely do things on the victim's computer. Now imagine the following scenario. You may be working from home using your office computer or maybe your personal computer. Now in the evening, you may give it to your kids because they need to do their homework online. And of course, kids like to chat with their friends, they are exchanging files, etc. But what if your kids' friends send them a PDF, which is infected with a Trojan? The moment your kids open that Trojan on your laptop gets infected. And now once the criminal knows your IP address, they can use NetBus or a similar Trojan to start controlling your laptop remotely. So what all can a criminal do? The first option is an option known as the show image option. Using the show image option, it is possible for a criminal to display embarrassing photographs or images of their choice on the victim's computer screen. So all that the criminal needs to do is type in the URL of a photograph or image that they would like to display on the victim's computer and click on OK. And as soon as they click on OK, out of nowhere, that photograph will suddenly pop up on the victim's computer screen. Another option is the message manager option, using which it is possible for a criminal to display text messages of their choice on the victim's computer screen. So for example, in this space provided, I will type something like, I am watching you. I know what you did. on Saturday night. And as soon as I click on send message, within a few seconds, a pop-up dialog box will now be displayed on the victim's computer screen. And of course, the victim will have no clue as to what is going on his or her computer screen. And a very good suggestion which I like to give to all of you is, the first time all of you try this out, please try to do it in such a way wherein you have physical eye contact with the victim. Because the moment the victim, or the moment this message displays on the victim's computer screen, the kind of facial reactions or expressions that the victim is going to have will be very, very funny to watch. Now, to be honest, what I've just shown you till now are simple pranks that you can play on somebody. Let's move on to a little bit more serious stuff. The next option is a screen dump option that allows a criminal to take a screenshot of the victim's computer screen. So in other words, imagine that you are doing some work on your computer. Maybe you're working on a confidential PowerPoint or preparing for a launch of a new product, or maybe you're reading some emails, or maybe you're accessing your personal bank account. Whatever is getting displayed on your computer screen can be captured as a snapshot and can be sent back to the criminal. So they will know exactly what you're seeing on your computer screen. Not only that, there is a listen option as well, where as soon as a criminal clicks on listen, then whatever the victim is typing on their computer gets displayed on the criminal's computer. So in other words, imagine you're logging into your account. Username gets recorded. Password also gets recorded. Maybe you're typing your OTP as well. Your OTP is also getting recorded. So whatever you're typing on your computer, the criminal gets a live feed of it on their computer. Finally, there is a go to URL option, there is a key manage option, and also a file manage option, using which the criminal can browse your entire computer, download files, upload files, and even delete files from your computer, all remotely through the internet. So once your computer gets infected with a Trojan, then pretty much the criminal can do whatever they wish to do on your computer without your knowledge. So let's quickly move on. And by the way, actually, before I move on, what I showed you is a very simple example of a Trojan that will probably get detected by the existing antivirus tools. But when you talk about Lost Door, and when you talk about, say, Metasploit, they are something known as FUD Trojans, or fully undetectable Trojans. And you can actually create your own virus signature or Trojan signature in such a way that you can avoid detection by existing antiviruses. So there are much more sophisticated tools available that criminals can use to remotely connect to your computer. So let's quickly move on to the next kind of threat that all of us face in this pandemic environment. Look, when you're working in a regular kind of normal circumstances, then you have something known as a human firewall. What does this human firewall mean? It basically means that if you receive an email like this, maybe, right? This email is an actual real screenshot of an actual email that has been doing the rounds on the internet. Now, this is an email which says that it's come from a vendor to the finance team or the accounts team of a company. And the vendor is saying that, look, due to some restructuring, our bank account details have changed. So the new payment details are the following, right? So whenever normally when you receive such an email, you typically just either walk over to your colleagues and check with them, or you'll kind of, pick up the phone and talk to somebody else. But now in this whole remote work environment, people don't tend to do that, because now you're just working on email, WhatsApp, SMSs, and that's it, right? And sometimes you hesitate before video calling somebody. So you receive such an email, and this is a classic example of something known as a business email compromise kind of attack, where this email that you've received is actually not sent by your vendor. It is an example of a spoofed email that was sent by a criminal. So while this email looks very real, in reality, it is not real at all. Let me give you another example. Sometimes you will receive an email from the CFO or the CEO of your company, saying that, hey, I'm in an urgent meeting. Can you please wire transfer the following amount to the attached account details? This is a new vendor and payment is due today. Send me a confirmation once this has been done. Would you actually call up your CEO just to check? Most people are A, either scared of the CEO, or B, they don't want to talk to the CEO, or C, they are afraid of disappointing the CEO, so they just want to execute on whatever they have been told. And finally, most companies, especially small and medium enterprises, they sometimes don't have the right process in place to determine, okay, what are the checks and balances I need to establish before I change the payment details of a vendor or before I initiate a wire transfer to a vendor. There are hundreds of examples like these that I can actually share with you, but let me actually show you how easily this can be done, right? So the email looks like as if your CEO has sent it to you, right? So the email address will be CEO's name @companydomain.com, whatever the company domain is, right? So it looks very real. So it's very easy for employees to fall for it. But in reality, this is a attack known as an email spoofing attack. So let me now show you how easy it is for criminals to execute email spoofing. So I'm going to share my screen with all of you again. So if you look at the screen, there is a website called mk.cz. Now, mk.cz is basically an online email spoofing website where you can actually send a spoofed email from any email address of your choice to any other email address of your choice by just filling up this online form. So let's actually see a live demo of this. So I'm sending an email from Bill Gates at Microsoft.com to a friend of mine here, Varun Swaroop at Hotmail.com. And the email is about giving him a job proposal. So I type the from name, from email address, the to email address, the subject, and then I'll type the actual body of the email. Dear Varun, heard a lot about you. From my representatives in Mumbai, would you like to work as part of my personal technical advisory team here in Redmond, USA? Of course, a 7-figure US dollar salary will be offered to you. Please call me at your convenience on my personal cell phone. That's not the real number of Bill Gates, so stop copying it down. Thanks a ton. Warm regards, Bill. Or maybe Billu. And when you're ready to send the email, all you gotta do is click send. And a few minutes later, when my friend checks his inbox, he would probably have received an email from Bill Gates at Microsoft.com offering him a job with Bill Gates at Microsoft. And what is even scarier is that when my friend opens the email, it will look fairly real. It won't look as if it's been sent from a fake account in most of the situations. And what is scarier is that if my friend replies to the email, the reply will obviously go back to Bill Gates at Microsoft.com. So email spoofing is as simple as filling up an online form on some website. And unless your company has the right anti-spam filtering tools, your employees will not be able to actually protect themselves against such email spoofing tools. Of course, good news is that there are solutions out there. But the question is, how many companies have implemented the solution, especially in the SME space? Just like email spoofing, there is also SMS spoofing that is possible. So it is possible for your employees to even receive an SMS from the boss or the CEO's mobile phone number that will look like a real SMS. And just the way you have email spoofing websites, you also have SMS spoofing websites that are available Not free of cost. Email spoofing is free, but unfortunately, SMS spoofing will cost you maybe $1 or $2 per spoofed SMS that you wish to send out. Let's quickly move on to the fourth big threat that all of us are facing in today's work from home environment. So like I said earlier at the start of my presentation, three things have happened. The third thing, if you remember, is that criminals are now trying to take advantage of today's pandemic and people's mindset to try and hack into their computers. So there are a lot of these phishing emails or spear phishing emails that are doing the rounds on the internet. So you may receive an email, which will be a spoofed email, something like the following. The email will seem as if it's come from the CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, typically in the US, but imagine it in India, it could be something like Ministry of Health. And the email will say that important guidelines or information about, I don't know, COVID-19 in Mumbai. So if your company is Mumbai based, your employees receive such an email. Of course, your employees will, because everybody is so stressed about COVID-19, their chances are that they may click on the link or may open the attachment and their computer gets infected with a Trojan virus or some kind of malware. Not only that, there are also other types of phishing emails doing the rounds on the internet. This example is from Singapore, where what criminals did was they pretended to be the IT team or the HR team, rather, not IT team, the HR team of a company. Imagine that you as an employee receive an email from your HR person saying that, look, our offices have started to reopen. There is only 30% employees are allowed to come to work. And these are the safety guidelines you must follow. And there is a link to a PDF file. Most employees are likely to open it, especially on their mobile phone. If they're using a mobile phone, they'll just click on it and try to see what the guidelines are. And when they click on the link, there will be guidelines that will get displayed, but secretly in the background, their phone or their computer gets infected with a spyware, Trojan, or some other kind of spying tool. So it's very important in this pandemic environment for companies to educate their employees about the risks of blindly trusting an email, about the risk of opening attachments or clicking on spear phishing links. The last kind of threat that I wanted to talk about today, and then we'll switch to solutions, and then of course the question and answer session. The last threat is the fact that your mobile phone today, you're using your mobile phone to access more sensitive data than ever before. Think about it, right? I remember earlier I would just mostly do my emails on my laptop or office computer, but now most of my emails are on my phone. I'm opening attachments. I'm even editing tools or editing files and sending them back using just my mobile phone, right? So the length and breadth of kind of processing of business files, documents, and transactions on the mobile phone has never been this much in the history of kind of the internet use in India. However, your mobile phone is not safe. Just the way your laptop can be hacked, even mobile phones can be hacked, and even mobile phones can be spied into. Just a few weeks ago, I actually got an email from somebody saying that, I think my wife is cheating on me. Can you please help me hack into her mobile phone? Because I want to see who she's chatting with. I want to see where she's going, and I want to read her WhatsApp messages and see her pictures. So obviously there is people know that it is possible to hack mobile phones, and B, people are trying to do this. And even in the work environment, this happens quite often. Imagine that you and I are working in the same company, or you and I are friends. All I need to do to infect your phone, there are two ways I can infect your phone. Number one, I can send you a phishing email. I showed you examples just a few minutes ago. And you click on a link, open an attachment, your mobile phone gets infected. This can happen over WhatsApp. This can happen over any kind of chatting tool, or any other kind of medium. Or if I have physical access to your phone, which your spouses do, or when you start going back to work, your employees do, your colleagues do, if they borrow your phone to make a very important phone call, and most of us tend to give our phones to our friends and colleagues, all they need to do is open your browser, download a particular app, and infect your phone with a spying tool. And once your phone has been infected with the spying tool, the criminal can go back home from anywhere in the world, log on to the admin panel of that spying tool, and can see everything that's happening on your phone. So let me demonstrate this through a live demonstration. So I'm going to share my laptop screen again with all of you, and then show you how easy it is to spy upon other people. So if all of you look at the screen, the software that I'm going to use is a software called Mobile Spy, or mSpy. And essentially what I've done is I've infected a phone using mSpy. And now I'm going to remotely actually try to access the everything that's happening on that phone, and show you how easy to use the admin panel is. So if all of you look at the screen, this is what the admin dashboard console looks like. I can see a bunch of things about the victim. First of all, location information, right? So I can see exactly over the last, I don't know, 1 week or 2 weeks, whatever that time period is, you can see the exact movements of that person, in a physical kind of map. Of course, I have been working from home. I have not left my apartment in Dubai for the last several weeks now. So as a result, you'll notice that it's not showing multiple locations, but otherwise normally it will show you, exact locations at different times of the day and so on. I can click on the different links on the left navigation bar. So I can access the address book. I can see the SMSs that the victim has received. So a lot of times we wonder, how are people stealing our OTP pins that we get from our banks? This is how it happens. The second is I can see all the call history. So who has the victim called, who has called the victim, and so on. I can see any confidential and private photos and videos that the victim has on their phone. And I can see which applications they have installed on their phone. I can even see what they have been typing on their phone. So I clicked on Keylogger, and I'm able to see everything that the victim has been typing on their phone, so including WhatsApp messages, Tinder kind of messages, even browsing history, Facebook history, and so on. So once you have managed to infect the victim's phone with any kind of spying tool, you actually have access, or you're able to see everything that the victim has been doing on their device. All right, so if you look at the time, let me just quickly transition to the solutions. So from the start of today's session, I've been talking about all the different cybersecurity threats and risks that all of us face, not only in the pandemic environment, but also kind of in the regular environment. But in the pandemic environment, the risks are just enhanced a lot more than what it would be in the normal kind of scenario. So what can you do to protect the work from home environment, right? And these are recommendations that you as an employee can implement, and also you as an SME owner or an entrepreneur can implement, right? So what can you do to protect yourself? So there are three kind of categories of recommendations I'm going to give you. One is on the technology side, second is on the processes side, and finally on the people side, right? So let's start with the technology side of things. So first of all, I think the moment this work from home environment started, I think it's important for organizations and SMEs to determine what are the most critical services that you need to keep running. So what are the most critical systems and services that your employees will continue to access from home or from a remote kind of work environment? And make sure that you patch all those systems, make sure it's all the software running on it is updated, and you need to focus on securing those along with any kind of publicly open or publicly facing consumer kind of services or systems that you might have. The second thing that you do need to do is you need to, if imagine that your employees are going to now use their personal devices to connect to their email or connect to any systems or servers that you have in the office, then you need to quickly define what are some baseline or basic cybersecurity requirements that you would like each and every one of your employees to implement. For example, they must have an antivirus, their OS must be updated every week, they need to have some kind of basic firewall on their laptops. You can whitelist and blacklist certain applications and share that list with employees and encourage them to kind of follow those policies, right? You cannot force them because this is just a kind of guideline, but at least you can make them mindful of what applications to use and what applications not to use. Now, if you have the budget, and if you're slightly a bigger kind of SME, then I would highly recommend that you also deploy a mobile device management solution to remotely secure employee devices, right? So MDM solutions can be used not only to remotely manage the security of office-owned laptops and mobile phones, but even personal devices of your employees, right? And this kind of MDM solutions allow you to fully control how often are those systems patched, what kind of security kind of policies are implemented on it, what kind of encryption is going to be used. You can create containers on those devices, right? So one container will be used for office kind of files, and other container would be used for personal files. So now your employees' devices have a full segregation of where office files are being stored and where personal files are getting stored. And you can also enforce all the security policies that you like to enforce. Then comes, you got to secure the connections, the internet connections of your employees. So irrespective of which service provider that they're using, it's important to give access or deploy a VPN that will encrypt end-to-end your connection of your employees from the home to the office environment. And a very good VPN, which I like to recommend to all of you, is AnyConnect. So you have patched your most secure systems. You have then patched or protected the endpoint systems or the personal devices of your employees. You've also now encrypted and secured the connection between the two devices, the personal devices and the office environment. What else do you need to do? To make sure that it is really your employees who are logging into the remote kind of making a remote connection into the office environment, you should need to deploy multi-factor authentication solutions to double check the identity of your, double or triple check also, the identity of your employees. HP has a very good multi-factor authentication solution called HP Multi-Factor Authenticate, which I like to highly recommend. If you're using a VPN or a multi-factor authentication tool, you can actually, each time your employee uses it or logs into the office environment, you can check the security compliance on their device, right? And if that device is not complying to certain security policies, you can disable and disallow that remote connection, right? So that forces employees to actually follow, even if you don't have an MDM. A lot of VPNs actually give you this facility. You should encourage your employees to use cloud-based collaboration applications and storage as much as possible. So solutions like Office 365, OneDrive, of course, you have cheaper alternatives as well that you can use. This is the right time to also deploy and scale up virtual desktop infrastructure or VDI solutions to give secure access to remote employees. Right, so a VDI solution is essentially the employee can use any device of their choice, open the browser, through the browser or through some kind of terminal software, they are accessing the Windows operating system, which is on your virtual machine in the Office server. And all the files, there are different operating models, right? The files could be stored on their personal computer temporarily, or all the files have to be stored on the Office environment itself. right? So there are different ways to configure the VDI, but it's a great solution to secure work from home at scale. So that's what you need to do on a technology side. On the processes side, there are a few things that you need to do. Because suddenly what you'll realize is that in the work from home environment, two things happen. Your employees have more questions about, oh, ये software नहीं चल रहा है, मैं क्या करूँ, or am I allowed to download this or not, or how do I protect my, I don't know, password I've forgotten, or am I allowed to store my files on my Google Drive, or should I be using the Office kind of cloud? So there will be a lot many queries the IT team will receive. So it is important to, number one, enhance the IT help desk support in your company, because otherwise you'll just not be able to service all your employees. And secondly, you may need to deploy remote support tools. Like HP has something called HP MIK that allows you to easily remote desktop to your employees' personal computers or remote computers and give them the support that they need, the tech support that they need to implement security and also non-security IT related topics. It may be a good idea. A lot of SMEs are doing this. They are resetting all the remote access passwords and asking employees to change their password with enhanced password requirements, right? So that way, if any accounts have already been compromised, it's a fresh start because you're resetting all the passwords. Plus now you're enhancing the remote connection password policies to make it much tougher to hack into. You may also want to review and refresh your third-party vendor risk management processes, because now suddenly all your vendors who were in the past physically coming to your office now will be working remotely. So make sure you have the right processes in place. If you have an incident response plan, number one, if you don't have an incident response plan, you need to establish one. If you already have an incident response plan, do a cyber drill to make sure that the incident response plan is work from home proof. Because now your IT team may not necessarily be physically located in front of their servers. So your incident response plan or business continuity plans need to be work from home proof. And encourage employees to be careful where they're working from. Because a lot of employees may be sharing their apartment or their rooms with other colleagues, other people who are not working for the same company. Sometimes, especially with startups and SMEs, maybe your employees are sharing a room with somebody who's working for a competitor. So use privacy filter screens. HP has a very good privacy filter screen as well. Finally, on the people side, very quickly, I think two things, right? Cyber security awareness is a must in any kind of situation. But in this pandemic, it's even more important. So it's very, very critical that you actually define the do's and don'ts and communicate it to your employees. If the most sophisticated companies also run phishing kind of drills or phishing email kind of activities to check whether employees are able to differentiate between regular emails and phishing emails or not. I've said a lot. I hope, I think this was helpful. The idea today was to show you what are the biggest cybersecurity threats that companies face in the pandemic environment, and what are some simple solutions that you can actually implement to protect yourself. So in the interest of time, I'll be happy to now kind of move to the Q&A session. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that anybody might have. Feel free to post your questions in the chat window. And of course, our moderator, Mr. Rahul, will actually help us pick and choose some of those questions, and I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Ankit. Thank you for taking us through this wonderful session. I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions for all the people who are attending this seminar and who are going to see this video. I'm picking up a few common questions that are coming up right now. So the first, and I think the most common question on the chat window, is about how do I know if my system is hacked?
That's a very good question. So to be honest, a lot of times it can be a few weeks and you have no idea that your system has been hacked, right? Usually it's too late. So you'll find out that, hey, your sensitive emails have been released, or your competitor has now released the same kind of marketing plan that you had put together and so on. So I think a simple solution is to just install a basic firewall on your computer, right? A firewall will tell you, it's like a chowkidar. It will tell you the moment somebody is connecting to your computer or something is going out of your computer. So I think that's a very basic way to figure this out. Nowadays, most antivirus software come with a built-in firewall, which is good enough. Even Windows has its own firewall, but my recommendation is add something on top of it as well.
Okay. I think the next question, I think, which is very, very important because eventually people are moving their business online. And I think one of the biggest threat today is ransomware. So what are the ways to block a ransomware, proactively work on that?
Look, so I wish there was a single simple solution against all ransomware, right? As you can imagine, it's a cat and mouse game. As the antivirus tools are able to block the known ransomware out there, there'll always be something new that comes up. So I would recommend two things, right? Number one, have a good antivirus tool on your computer. Actually, three things I'll recommend. One is a good antivirus tool. Two is a good firewall. And three is, it's very important to educate your employees, because ransomware, the way they enter your computer is exactly what I showed you today. A phishing email or a phishing link. Make your employees aware. Make them so paranoid that they don't even click on their own boss's attachments. Right? That's the level of security or paranoia that you need to kind of reach.
Great. I think one last question that we take is, can you suggest any good MDM solution?
Look, there are lots of MDM solutions out there. I think the big kind of manufacturers or big companies like Cisco has something that you can use. I think there are pros and cons to each and every solution that's out there. So yeah, so I would suggest that instead of me recommending a particular vendor, do your own due diligence. There are some free ones, but most of the times it's a paid solution.
Great. So I think those were some of the very important questions that I saw on the screen. I think there are more which basically, I think some people probably need to see the whole video to kind of know the recommendations that you made. But I think what I've gathered from your presentation is, over a period of time, there are 3 or 4 level basic checks that needs to be done. One is at the level of the network, second is at the level of the device, third is level of your infrastructure, your own IT infrastructure that needs to be managed. And you've given some recommendation at every level from that particular perspective. Specifically, if I'm a business who's right now planning to take, I was having a basic IT infrastructure today, and now I'm thinking over a period of time in terms of having a hybrid system of having online versus offline as well. And obviously, my commerce will move to online as well. So what are the safe ways in terms of me to kind of right now choose what are the kind of changes that I need to make in my IT infrastructure if I'm now moving from an offline to an hybrid or an online model?
I think, look, especially for SMEs, cost is a big consideration, right? So I would recommend using open source software wherever possible. I would also recommend using SaaS solutions or cloud-based solutions where there are economical kind of subscription models available. So pay per use or pay per month or something like that. So that way it's fairly scalable. So as your organization grows, you can actually just buy new licenses, subscribe to more kind of users, etc. So that's what I'll kind of say. I think there are some basic things that every organization must do. So if you go online, there is something called SANS 20, which is a standard 20 simple things that every company must do. And this doesn't require like $1 million kind of investments, right? So basic SMEs or startups can actually use that as a guide to implement and secure their organization.
One last question is about, you mentioned about not using Gmail, but your mail is also on Gmail.
Yes. So look, I think initially, of course, all the questions that I asked were to
just to nudge,
right? Yeah. To kind of tell you that we are so comfortable using everything on the internet that we tend to just not even think about security. Continue using everything, but be more secure. On my Gmail, the day Google started two-factor authentication, I was probably one of the first few people to implement it, right? So there are these solutions. Be aware of how your emails, devices, etc., can be hacked, and proactively take solutions or implement solutions to protect yourself.
Great. And I think that's the reason why most of the IT partners today or solution providers today have what we call as business solutions. There is a reason why they are called business solutions. Obviously, there is a slight premium to it because obviously when it comes to security, business security, cookie cutting is not something that is preferred over a period of time because there's a long-term, issues that can happen over a period of time, and that's the reason why business solutions are being designed for business solutions. And I liked your input in terms of making sure we have the right software, we have the right business device, we have the basic features in terms of, let's say, a webcam or a webcam kill switch or things like that, which basically just helps over a period of time in kind of managing the office. So thank you very much, Ankit. I know we are now already 5 minutes ahead of our time, but guys, if you have any questions, please go to HP India Facebook page and can send us your questions, and we'll try our best. If there is any question that we need to work with Ankit and get back to you with an answer, we will. But thank you very much for joining us, Ankit. It's been always a pleasure to work with you and to hear these views over a period of time, because like you said, in our day-to-day life, we just probably tend to miss out these things because our natural behavior is towards moving with what's easy, what's available, what's natural over a period of time. So thank you very much again. Another great session, and if there is anything that any of the attendees have at this point of a time, please send us on a message right now, or you can also message us on Facebook. Please join us for this Be Unstoppable series over a period of time. We've covered business supply management. We've covered marketing and sales. Today with Ankit, we covered cybersecurity. We are covering more topics in the coming weeks. Please join us for this particular web series. And thank you very much for giving us your Friday. Signing off. Thanks a lot, Ankit.
Thank you.
And people who are leaving right now, please do not close the chat window. Log off, because once you log off, there's going to be a feedback session. If you can just tell us about how you like this particular sessions and what more do you want from us, it will be really, really great. So don't press the cross button, just log off, and you will see there's going to be a feedback form. It will be really, really helpful if you can just help us to fill that feedback form. Thank you very much.